When I say noodles, what do you think of? Italian pasta or Asian noodles maybe? Well, how about German Spätzle? It's this traditional egg noodle style from southwestern Germany and its neighbors like Switzerland and Austria, and it is totally underrated. There are tons of delicious ways to eat this style of noodles, and starting with this video, my new favorite, a fusion of cheesy Spätzle with Chinese chili garlic noodles. But perhaps the best part about Spätzle is that with the right technique, they're incredibly easy and fast to make from scratch. You know what? Believe it or not, this can even be faster than cooking store-bought pasta from a box. But first, let's talk about what makes Spätzle so special. I'm sorry. Fortunately, the friendly folks at the European Union, who sure love a good document, well, they have already done most of the research for us. And to be fair, they didn't do it for educational purposes exactly, but instead to tell us what we can and cannot call Spätzle by law. Classic EU priorities, I guess, but jokes aside, this really is a good starting point. Turns out, like any beloved modern dish, Spätzle started out as poor man's food. In Swabia, where they originated, there wasn't a whole lot of fertile ground, and the rural population was mostly just scraping by. Which means for food, they had to use the same few things all the time. Among those things were good old chicken eggs, but also their staple grain, spelt. Spelt is like a more ancient, hardier, less refined version of wheat, so yeah, basically ghetto wheat. And unlike durum wheat, which is used for Italian-style pasta making, spelt would happily grow in the harsher climate of Swabia. And this is the first big difference between the origins of Spätzle and pasta. But the second is probably even more important. While Italian pasta is usually made from a dry dough and then cut or pressed into shapes before being cooked, Spätzle is made from a really wet dough, almost a batter, and cut directly into the water. In the really olden days, people would just take a little bit of dough, hold it in their hand, and then just rip off like little pieces of that. Something like this, I imagine. This actually may or may not be the origin of the word Spätzle, because Spätzle sounds similar to the German word Spatz, which means sparrow. Another explanation for the name's origin is the Italian word spezzato, meaning something like broken or split into pieces. This is the origin story I personally think is most likely, because not only is Swabia actually pretty close to northern Italy, but I think the word might have made it there during times of ancient Rome even. No matter where it's from though, that loose batter and that manual work involved, they give Spätzle a very specific outer appearance. As the European law puts it, a homemade style product, irregular in shape, with a rough, porous surface. And while I'm quite tempted to just file this under rustic, this might not be a bug. This might be a feature, and you'll see why when we start cooking with them. But we haven't even gotten to what I think is the most important part of the story of Spätzle, because what are Germans most known for? Huh? Exactly. Engineering. And so of course it's no surprise that this one German pasta is probably the most over-engineered pasta of all time. The OG traditional technique is to use a board similar to a small pizza peel maybe, and a special scraper. Most people in Swabia will tell you that if you have any respect for yourself or your guests, this is how you'll do it. This technique, it goes way back. In fact, in 1821, Spätzle made this way were already so popular that when a war broke out and Swabian soldiers went into battle, they insisted on taking Spätzle boards and scrapers with them. At one point, for a number of complicated reasons, they were told that they'll have to leave the Spätzle boards behind, and you know what they did? Well, they completely refused to move any further until leadership finally conceded. That's how much Swabian people love Spätzle. Not too long after that, the dish is starting to spread all over Germany, and the newly emerging engineering class, well, they jump right on the Spätzle train and start cranking out one weird gizmo after the other. A quick search of the German Patent Office's database yields a pretty substantial list of results dating back almost 100 years. There is a hand-cranked Spätzle mill, there are metal or plastic scrapers and graters and mechanical presses and manual presses, and the newest thing to hit the market are shaker squeezers. Some people really love the innovations because, a few of them actually work really well, but a lot of high quality omas, they will tell you that no, the scraper and the board is still the way to go. In the end, everyone has their own style. Quite controversially, some people even prefer a shorter mini dumpling style called Knöpfle. To each its own, I'd say. No matter what you like though, you can use these noodles as a side dish or a bed for any amazing topping you like. They're eaten with ham or sometimes with lentils or in a soup, but the real crowd pleaser is cheese. Think of mac and cheese on steroids. I'm talking 3 to 5 types of cheese thrown into the buttered noodles, topped with fried or caramelized onions and pepper, served in a hot cast iron pan. What could be better? And that's kind of the style I want to go for. But I want to give it a Chinese style twist. Let's just call it a German Chinese mac and cheese fusion. The first thing we'll need to make Spätzle is a tool. And I don't have one, as you can see. And even though there are certainly enough tools to choose from, I do not want to buy one. I want to make one. And all we need to make one is this, a simple squeeze bottle. You can always order this online, or you can find this at like cooking equipment stores. How big is this? 340 milliliters. Do not choose a really small one, or don't choose a really big one. Like a medium size like this is all you need. And in order to turn this into a Spätzle maker, we only have to do one thing. Grab a knife. Open the squeeze bottle. This is the nozzle. You can see the hole is really, really small. That's gonna make for a really thin Spätzle, but that is the easiest of all fixes. Just carefully cut off the tip. Better with a knife than with scissors, believe it or not, but yeah. I'm not 100% sure if this is big enough, but we can always make the hole bigger. We cannot make it smaller. And that is all we had to do. So we got our tool, and all we got to do now is to actually make Spätzle. And for that, we're going to start by making our dough or batter. Good Spätzle dough is always made with lots of eggs. Why? Because they're rich in protein and the egg white firms up quickly as soon as they hit the water, while the yolk keeps the Spätzle nice and succulent. It's pretty common to also add a little bit of water though. After that, most people keep the recipe plain with just a little bit of salt. If you really want to be fancy, you can add a sprinkle of nutmeg. Some people like adding herbs, but today we're going for 5-spice powder. We know that traditionally the recipe calls for spelt, which is what I will use, but lots of people just use all-purpose flour these days, so that is totally fine as well. So here it is, our magical Spätzle tool, filled with not the entire amount of flour we need. There is a little bit more we're gonna add later. The first reason, my bottle is full, but there's also another good reason, because it is possible to stir this in the bottle if you use a chopstick or something, but I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be messy. There's a better way, which is... My point is, you can shake this really hard and it should mix together. It's a little bit of a workout, but it definitely is the most efficient method. Let's look inside. This is pretty much what I was looking for. It's all been stirred together, not perfect, still a bit lumpy, but good enough. And now we can actually add our remaining flour. If we had added this flour before, the dough would be way too stiff to shake it. And trust me, you do want to shake it first and then add the rest later. It's much easier to do it this way. And to stir in this last bit of flour, you're gonna need a trusty wooden spoon. Doesn't have to be a wooden spoon, just something that's like sturdy enough. A chopstick will also work, but because of its thinness, it's not the ideal tool for the job. I think it's stirred in pretty well. Most of the lumps have disappeared. If you still have a few lumps, don't worry about it. Let's do a viscosity check. This is the texture you kind of want to go for, and it's a little bit difficult to put into words, but no drip, just rip. No, you want... What? No drip, just rip. Let's roll with that. God, I have no idea how to do. It's good. It should be thick, okay?
You're a man of thickness.
I am a man of thickness.
Say that.
No, I've said it too many times. Just because it's true, I can't keep saying it in every video. The final step is to simply close up that bottle. And you know what? Most traditional Spätzle recipes call for resting the dough for a little bit of time, for a good reason, because resting the dough will help develop the gluten and that will give your Spätzle better texture. And that's perfect because we still need to boil some water. And while we're doing that, we're gonna take that bottle, make sure that little lid is on, and then we're gonna put it in a glass upside down, which will help the dough flow to the bottom and hang out there until it's ready to be used. Very good. Water is boiling. You want to add a little bit of salt to the water, just so it doesn't make your Spätzle bland. I know the day will come where I will accidentally put MSG in the water instead of salt. Accidentally. And the rest, well, couldn't be any easier. Just open the bottle and squeeze. Yeah, I think the hole is too small, but no problem. I'll just switch this out and use the one from my test batch. And to be sure you don't make the same mistake, we're gonna measure this and I will tell you exactly that the diameter of my perfect squeeze bottle is 3.5 millimeters. And now we're gonna pretend like none of that happened. What? And don't worry, it looks like I'm making one enormously long noodle, but it's actually gonna naturally break apart into segments so we don't have to do anything. I also like to make sure I don't over squeeze the bottle, so just give it a rest. My water, by the way, is on medium heat and that prevents the Spätzle from overcooking. Yeah, that is exactly what you're trying to avoid. That is exactly what you're trying to avoid. Oh my God. But yeah, that is exactly why you don't want to squeeze too hard or too fast. Okay, so like every other thing in the world that's worth doing and pursuing, this might take a little bit of practice, but I think we're already getting somewhere. Now just give everything a quick stir. So this noodle did not break apart. The noodle looks quite thick at this moment though. Do not worry about that. Hang on a second. So traditionally people say as soon as the noodles float to the top, that's when they're done. But when I make them, they usually float to the top pretty much as soon as they hit the water. So just give them like 2 minutes or something and they're done. And once they are, just grab a bowl of cold water, take out your noodles and get them in the pool. And there they are, our beautiful, freshly made Spätzle. Before, when I was testing it, I wasn't getting like a long ass noodle like that, but I don't know, I'm down. I don't mind that. To be quite honest, I'm a little bit surprised by how thick they came out. When I was testing, they were never that thick, but in the end, it doesn't really matter. No matter which appliance you use, no matter how your Spätzle come out, even if you use store-bought Spätzle, but don't tell your Swabian friends, it's gonna taste good. Relax. Time to add some flavor. As I said before, I'm shooting for a Chinese-German fusion dish, so bear with me, and we're gonna start with a little bit of oil in our hot pan. Now to that oil, we're gonna add half a diced onion. Once they're in there, the pan is not that ripping hot anymore, and we can start adding a few other aromatics. For example, 2 cloves of garlic, finely minced. Stir those in. Also spring onions, but only the white part. And don't worry, we're gonna use the green part later. Don't forget to stir your onions. Some chili flakes. And now we're going full on Chinese or Sichuanese with Sichuan peppercorns. This is around a half teaspoon finely ground. Give everything a stir so the ingredients can get to know each other. And now it is time to add in our Spätzle. And actually, if they're a little bit wet, that's good. Make sure the flame is not too hot. And we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of mature Chinese vinegar. Make sure it's not the childish kind. And just a little bit of sesame oil. And now just use a wooden spoon to stir everything together. If we were making Chinese style noodles, these would be pretty much done, but we're not. We're making Chinese German noodles. And there cannot be good Käsespätzle without Käse. That's German for cheese. Add in as much as you like. A handful is good, I think. Now give this just a brief stir so the cheese is surrounded by hot noodles, which will help it melt. To finish this Italian style, we're adding a little knob of butter. That's a very cute knob of butter. We're gonna grate in some fresh Parmesan cheese. Obviously don't do this. I really need to buy a new one. Freshly grated Parmesan cheese. You guys, join me on Patreon so I can afford to buy a new grater. And finally, just, a tablespoon or something of water to give everything a bit of juice. And now stir everything and watch it become the creamiest thing you have ever seen. We're only using the residual heat, right? The stove is off. Slide it into your plate. And our finishing touch will be adding the greens from the spring onion. Tasting time. Let's try this. I mean, it looks fantastic. Smells fantastic. So cheesy, so fragrant. This is a thing of beauty. It's really delicious. I feel like this is a combination that shouldn't work. We have cheese, but we also have like Chinese vinegar and soy sauce and all these, and 5 spice and Sichuan pepper, and especially the Sichuan pepper and cheese combo Whoa, that needs to be explored further. Oh my God. These noodles, even though they're quite thick, the texture is perfect. They're al dente, but they're not too chewy. They're not falling apart, they're not soggy, which is what happens to Spätzle sometimes. We did a lot of things right here. I would love to know how you guys think of this dish. I mean, if you have to, use store-bought Spätzle, but I'm just interested in how you like this flavor combo. So remember when I told you that the craggly, rugged surface of Spätzle is actually a feature and not a bug? Well, I think there is no other noodle in the world that can hold sauce as well as Spätzle do. Anything will cling to their surface. Like, that is the eternal struggle. People want their sauce to stick to their pasta. And if you've ever struggled with that, just make Spätzle and your life will be changed. You're welcome. I'm not gonna be able to finish this, but I hope you guys are able to watch another video. If you like this experiment, you should also see how I tried to make Sichuanese dandan noodles, but with Italian pasta, which was kind of a little bit in this spirit, but different. Either way, I'm obviously under the influence of cheese. So with that being said, I hope you guys learned something. I hope you try this sacrilegious combo of flavors, and I'm gonna see you in the next video.